Welcome to the Creative Shoe Fly. I'm Thomas Butel. This podcast is about exploring the creative journey as an artist. And in this episode, I speed interview some of the people I met at this year's Everything Conference, which was held in Minneapolis. The Everything Conference is a semi-annual gathering of multipotentialites, and it's styled as an unconference, where everyone is a participant and the workshops and experiences are led by the participants themselves. I had an opportunity to lead a workshop based on some of the creative processes I've described on this podcast, mind mapping, role play, and Scrum for One, and I'm happy to say that I got some nice feedback. In addition to participating in other experiences, I met a lot of wonderful people and I made some new friends. It's really cool to be in a group that doesn't blink an eye when you say, I'm interested in this, and this, and this, and this. They totally get it because they have as many interests as I do. Before going to the Everything Conference, I knew that I wanted to interview my fellow multipods, and the idea I came up with was to write a bunch of questions and have them pick one at random. Half of the questions are about creativity, and half about multipotentiality. I ended up writing them on a set of blank bicycle playing cards. I enjoyed seeing the look on their faces when they picked a card from the deck and realized that it was not a real playing card. I ended up interviewing about a dozen people, and we'll start with my friend, Heather.
You would tell me what it is? If so, okay.
Card.
Okay.
Let's see. So, Heather, what's a piece of advice you would give to a young multipotentialite?
Okay, that's a really good question because I think our society has typically been quite like you must choose something, you have to specialize, and I do think that's shifting, but kind of in the meantime, it's really working on accepting that for yourself, honoring that you do have all of these interests, right? And that basically, one, you're really awesome, you're not broken, and it's just sort of, it's just like being a different flavor of human.
Right.
Yeah. And to explore, like get into your interests, try them out. It's okay to shift because that's what we do. But yeah, just to kind of honor that and try to be firm with others. Like, hey, this is really who I am. And I need your support, especially for a young person. It's just like, I need that support to kind of...
That's really important.
Yeah, to nourish those interests and that identity. So,
All right, thank you very much. Okay. So Colleen, how do you know when a creative project is finished?
Oh, that is a hard question because most creatives I know, they'll pick at it and never let it go. I think there's a couple ways to see. One is by sharing your work.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because other people will see the whole better than you will. Another time is just to be comfortable with good enough. It meets your standards and then let it out in the world. I think when we don't let our work out, it's really fear that it won't be good enough.
Right. So that letting go part is key.
I think that is what it is. I mean, we don't, especially people who do one-off work. And, in my practice, I know that a lot of times I'm terrible at planning. I'm trying to learn how to sketch my work ahead of time, but really I just see what the materials want to be.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it's sometimes hard to know when you're done because you didn't know what you were going to do when you started. I think if you know, it's kind of like in my corporate life, project is done because you define done at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
In my creative work, I'm not as good at doing that.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Pull out my cards. All right. Stacy, how do you stay updated and informed in multiple fields?
Okay, primary way I do is I'm an avid reader and my tastes are eclectic, so I'll read across anything that interests me. So I mainly do nonfiction, though I do read fiction as well. And even a lot of the fiction you can learn a lot of things or even spark thoughts. especially if it's an author like a Michael Crichton. I'm trying to think the Dan Brown or those that meticulously, or Ken Follett, that they really research before they write. So you learn a lot of stuff even from there.
They really study their craft.
Right.
Yeah.
So whatever the novel that they're writing, you get a lot of good detail, and that has sparked me to look into other things, whether it's mainly travel, but also trying new things or trying something based on something I read. Yeah. But like I said, also, I'm also read nonfiction. I usually read 4 or 5 books at once. So that's the primary, but also internet, of course. And then coming to things like this and just interacting with people and just hearing what I call like just different perspectives of what people are into. I'm lucky that, I've either lived in big cities or in this now, like in a college town. So, of course, you have like a lot of different people with a lot of different ideas that sort of cross-pollinate. So that also kind of helps not just expose me to new things, but also even stuff that I do interacting with other people that are into the same thing, but may have a, either different level of experience or perspective.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Christy, how do you deal with creative burnout?
I am really fortunate because I'm a multipod.
Yes.
So when I feel like I have creative burnout in one particular area, like I've been writing too much and it's just getting foggy, I can switch. I can do something verbal, like a podcast or a discussion with someone or an interview with someone. And somehow I feel that it returns my energy to me. So I think having a couple of different interests that you juggle is a real benefit because when one of them just gets stale or you're not inspired, you can draw from that well of the other kinds of interests and hobbies.
Isn't that a wonderful thing about being a multipotentialite?
I love it the most. I love it the most. And I think also when you have those creative, energizing people that you talk with, you can draw from that too. You can be like, I'm a little stuck, let's talk about whatever. It'll spur something in you. So it's a real benefit.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for asking.
All right, Ted. How do you celebrate your multipotentiality?
I celebrate it in my day-to-day life, basically based on how I live my life. I choose very multipotentialite friendly work and career, and I don't shy away from it. I really embrace it. And it's been a journey to get to that point, but I'm very happy with that. And, a lot of it's the support from the group, for sure, from the Puttyverse and more broadly speaking, but people who get it, people who understand that, and it really helps us, I think, survive and thrive with that kind of mentality.
It's important to celebrate, and it's important also to really have a good support group and that understands it. So, thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Okay, Lisa, what role does failure play in your creative process?
It's a tough one because I don't see failure in my creative process. Every time, like I do something and then I just try to make it better the next time. So it's not necessarily a failure because it's a spontaneous, creative, instantaneous kind of thing that I go for. And so there's really no wrong way to do it. Just jump in and do it. So it's a tough question because I feel like it's not, I don't view it as a failure. It's just.
Right. So failure to you is it's just an iterative process. You just go and figure it out and do the next thing. That's wonderful. Thank you. So Ryan, what's the most rewarding aspect of being a multipotentialite?
That it's opened my life to meeting people I never would have met if I wasn't a multipotentialite.
And it's fantastic because it's like, I want to meet these people.
No matter what size city you live in, and I've spent 44 of my 46 years in Northeast Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, and Cleveland, Ohio. Also briefly lived in Washington, D.C., and Ann Arbor, Michigan. But when I read Emily's book, How to Be Everything, I thought she was writing my biography. And I immediately joined the then Putty Tribe, now Puttyverse, after reading the book and listening to her TED Talk. And I realized, there's several hundred of these people worldwide. And this is now my second everything conference I've come to. And once you meet these people, you realize these would have been my best friends if I'd have met them when I was 5 years old instead of 40 years old.
Isn't that so true? I mean, what I love about it is it's just sort of like there's an instant comfort level.
Yes, absolutely. Fully agree with that. There's a sense of if you were all little kids in the same sandbox, that sandbox becomes a lot bigger. It's not just the 6x8 or whatever your dad was able to fit in the backyard. It becomes like a football field size sandbox. And there's a little corner over here where people are doing arts and crafts. There's a corner over here where people are business and analytical. And there's another corner where they're singing. But the one thing I found about this community, mainly the Puttyverse, I know there's World Domination Summit and Camp Indie people here as well, is it's almost agenda free. There certainly are some coaches who want you to do sessions with them, or other people have a business plan, or authors or artists who want you to maybe buy their book or listen to their music. But there's never that push. It's always organic, natural conversations. None of us little snowflakes are alike, but the one commonality is there's just overwhelming encouragement. There's not the vitriol and hatred you'll find at other sites. There's not the pushiness.
Yeah.
That's what I really treasure about this community and the people I've met in it.
I do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
So, Monica, name a place you would like to visit and why.
I've always wanted, since I was a little kid, to visit Greece.
Greece.
Probably because I went through, as I think a lot of kids do, a Greek mythology phase.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I still would love to see, like, the ancient structures and learn about the ancient times.
Yeah.
So, Greece.
Do you think you're going to get a chance in the next, let's say, 10 years?
I think it's possible, but I've lately been struggling a bit with travel. So it would be something that I would have to work towards.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So, Amy, how do you find new creative challenges?
I think just by exploring different aspects of issues, so trying to take a look at a problem or a challenge in a different way. So kind of just trying to take a step back and looking at something from a different angle, I think helps me approach a challenge differently or gives me a new challenge because I've applied a different perspective to it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that would be how I approach different creative challenges.
I'm going to ask a follow-up if I may.
Sure.
So how do you think that your multipotentiality sort of is a part of how to find a creative challenge?
I think it's actually essential to being able to. So I think my multipotentiality allows me to see things from different angles because I'm interested in so many things. I can kind of look at things from a scientific perspective, an artistic, a musical. So being able to, be interested in so many things and know a little bit about a lot of things, it kind of helps me put different perspectives or bring different ideas that maybe are not traditionally associated with a particular challenge into that challenge.
All right. Well, thank you.
Anytime.
So,
There you go.
So Marcus, how do you handle criticism of your creative work?
A good way that seems to handle criticism would be to just approach it with an open mind, understanding that we all have areas in which we can improve, and just trying to approach your work from a humble and honest perspective. If you really care about delivering a quality product, you're going to want the truth first. As the saying goes, all progress begins with truth. Yeah. I think it was Socrates or someone who said that. But yes, just approaching it from the perspective of that. There's always another stair rung I can go up, or another level I can go. So just seeing it from the perspective of we can always take another step towards perfection.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vanessa, what does creativity mean to you?
Oh, I love this question because I think sometimes we are brought up to think that creativity are only for like the artists and the makers.
Right.
And oh my gosh, they're so creative. They made that cool sculpture or painting or jewelry, or look at how they like dress. They're so creative. And to me, the creativity is like what lights us up, what sparks us, how we feel alive. And we're like creating or doing or being like our best self. And sometimes creating is putting together a delicious meal. Sometimes creating is the simple gestures of bringing together different friends to say, oh my goodness, you should speak to this friend about that, or you would like to hear this story. It's these behind the scenes creativity. I believe that I am a creative person in the events I create, right? And so, yeah, creativity is just the thing that lights you up. It feels good. I'm sure there are football coaches who are creative because they make an amazing, plays, trick plays and stuff. Like creativity is actually all around us. Those who really can take pause and look are going to see it.
I like what you said about being. Creativity is a lot about the being. And I think your creativity is creating community.
Oh, thank you. That is literally one of the best compliments. Definitely creating and cultivating, curating community is important to me and something I love to do. And it is a special place of creativity and bringing people together. It lights me up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Tomoko, how do you manage the transition from idea to execution?
Thank you very much. So first, I use my mind map to jot down all the ideas that I have inside of my head. And once I finish listing it, I divide it into 2 categories, which is my priority project and take it for later project, I would say. And I focus from the top of my priority list into execution. So I like to divide the ideation process from the execution process. Mm-hmm. That's how my brain works better.
Yeah. And if I can ask a follow-up question. So when you create your mind map and then you are sort of prioritizing, how long do you think that usually takes you? Do you spend hours on it, or does it fast or slow, or what do you think?
Thank you for the follow-up question. I think it depends on the size of the project. So sometimes I mind map twice because if I have a very big project, I like to jot it down to what kind of process I have to go through. So it takes me to the another second mind map.
Yeah.
But if it's a smaller project, it's gonna take me about maybe 30 minutes to hour to write the mind map. And to build the execution plan,
right.
I will take other day because my brain is not doesn't like to function for ideation and execution at one time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Thomas.
And let's take a look at this card. Joel, what inspires you?
What inspires you? The sun is the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
But I might be thinking a little bit too literally in terms of a synonym of what sparks me, what gives me energy and enthusiasm. The sun is both from an intellectual perspective. I realize that is the source of my life and all other life on this planet.
Yeah.
But spiritually, I really get inspired by the fact that the sun comes up and goes down every day without fail.
Yeah.
And even when it's cloudy, the sun is always there. You just have to feel it behind the clouds. Can I have a 2-part answer?
Yes, go ahead.
There can be an and.
Yes, and.
Yes, and.
Yes, and I love that first part of the answer. And I'm glad, too, that it comes up and goes down every night, every day.
Yeah. Humanity in general inspires me.
Yeah.
I love humans, especially the challenging ones. And sometimes it's hard to do that in the moment. But the people who have challenged me to be a kinder, more patient, more respectful and trusting version, I really appreciate all the opportunities that humanity gives me. My family, my friends, incredible people that I get to meet around the world who come to my hometown from time to time for events that I help co-organize. It's just so cool that we can be together, do so many things, discuss so many things, experiment in so many ways. I just get endless inspirations from just these tiny little moments of interacting with all these incredible humans around the world.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting us to Minneapolis. This is a wonderful place.
Agreed. Shall I say more?
No. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to Joel, Tomoko, Vanessa, Marcus, Amy, Monica, Ryan, Lisa with an R, Ted, Christy, Stacy, Colleen, and Heather for being willing to play with me on this podcast. It was fun to see which questions would pop out of the deck, and I was delighted how thoughtful the answers were. If you're interested to learn more about multipotentiality, check out Emily Wapnick's TED Talk, Why Some of Us Don't Have One True Calling. And also check out the Puttyverse community, which is an online gathering of multipods. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Creative Shoofly. If you like today's episode and want to hear more about the creative process, please consider subscribing to The Creative Shoofly wherever you get your podcasts. That's it for now. Be well and be creative.